Yo, how's it going? So let's check out some of the most deprived crimes of the ultra rich. Of course, of course. Where else do we expect it to
The
be?
true ultra-rich operate behind the scenes away from the public.
Facts.
And with such vast power and secrecy, they can get away with anything. From starting wars, promoting slavery, to mock human sacrifices and
course.
smuggling kilograms of cocaine, here are the most depraved crimes of the ultra-rich. But interfering in
No.
politics is only one of the
Ow.
ways these families
It's
control
over.
the world, as it's much more effective to go directly to the source and actively shift public opinion towards your needs by controlling the flow of information. And nobody does this better than the Murdoch family. They're the
Never heard
second
of this
on
family.
the list because of how deep their crimes go against society, owning one of the largest media empires in
Wow.
history,
Oh,
being
God.
catalyzed by one man in particular, Rupert Murdoch. Now, Rupert Murdoch had always started from wealth, inheriting his father's Australian newspaper business. Learning the lessons and tactics that his father used to dominate the Australian market, Rupert Murdoch would expand internationally, eventually taking majority control of Australia's newspaper industry, and then just the entirety of Australian media, controlling 59% of Australian newspapers, 40% of television revenues, and 90% of the main radio licenses. And one of the main tactics behind this huge growth was sleaze. You see, Rupert's main tactic was to turn everything he touched into a scandal factory. He's the father of the modern tabloid. Whatever his
okay.
reporters had to do, illegal or not, they did get a story. But Murdoch didn't just want Australia, he wanted the world. He was the master of finding monopoly loopholes, and he used these ruthless tactics to massive effect, using his vast fortunes to control Fox, the New York Post, the Sunday Times, the Times, the Wall Street Journal, and just so many countless other news organizations. I mean, once in 1990, he borrowed from over 140 different banks to finance a Sky takeover deal, and he could always take these risks because he was in control. Murdoch had a chokehold on the politicians, he knew all of their dirty secrets, and by controlling the majority of the press left, right, and center, it meant that he could then weaponize public opinion, as no elected official could ever touch him, and they still haven't today. You never see any politicians even criticizing him, even when he was literally caught letting his reporters hack into phones and buy information of drug smugglers.
Now we know how deep the roots of illegal journalism went at the News of the World. The hackers, including investigator Glenn Mulcair here, weren't working in secret. They weren't rogue reporters. The paper's middle managers, the desk editors, knew it was going on, as did Andy Coulson, even while editor of the paper.
It'd always be brushed under the rug, and so it's no surprise that the media would always stop talking about his scandals.
Yep,
I mean, it
control
took
the media,
Australia until
control the narrative.
2020 to launch an investigation into whether Murdoch did in fact control their media. One quick scathing report later, and the problem was just then completely solved, even though nothing actually changed, and he still controls all of the media today, buying up all the new generation media outlets. Even anti-establishment media outlets like Vice are now under the thumb of Rupert Murdoch. However, there's some
bankrupt.
worrying signs for the family. As the news moves more online and independent, and TV and print start to die a slow death, we might start to see Murdoch's iron grip on the media start to wane. I mean, Rupert Murdoch himself is over
that's
90
true.
now, and his sons are currently waging this medieval secession crisis over his dying empire, with one of
James
the Murdoch
Murdoch.
sons being allegedly pushed into a piano by his wife, breaking his back and nearly killing him aboard their 140-foot yacht. And with
Damn.
the recent Fox lawsuit and the company losing $700 million, it seems like the house of cards of the Murdoch family is now starting to fall. But whilst Murdoch may be on his way out, the media isn't the only way that elite families hold on to power. They gain a lot of power and wealth through playing the system in a way that only establishment elites have the ability to. I mean, just look at George Soros, for example. He's the third on our
heard
list
about
because
this.
of his expertise in
Heard
profiting
about
off
him.
the suffering of countries. He's been a major player for decades after his first hedge fund and institutional wealth gave him the tools of power. But Soros isn't just any hedge fund manager. He's built his career by betting on the collapse of entire economies. But sometimes he's not just betting. In fact, he's actively causing the crisis to profit off it. With one of the most famous examples being when Soros broke the Bank of England after he short sold $10 billion worth of pounds during the Black Wednesday currency crisis. It all began with a vulnerability in the UK's
Never heard.
economy. As the UK was easing into a recession, inflation was rising and the pound fell in value. Things weren't looking good. The golden age of the 80s was fading into the distance, and a huge recession was looming. So the UK government tried to tie their economy to Germany's by setting up a fixed exchange rate, with the whole goal of this being to stop inflation. But it really didn't. And while Germany remained strong, the UK just got weaker and weaker. But they still had to keep the exchange rate the same, which meant that the Bank of England had to buy more and more UK currency to keep the value up. And so enter George Soros. He was watching all of this with glee, He understood how truly weak the pound was, and he was going to exploit it to the max. You see, George Soros realized that by short selling the pound, he could then bet against the entire UK economy and country, a country and population that was already struggling, and he would do this by buying billions of Reichsmarks to buy pounds. Because of the forced exchange rate, this would put massive pressure on the pound, and so as the years went by and the recession got worse, Soros would then bet more and more against the pound, depleting its value until the Bank of England would prop it back up again. This went on for about 2 years, with Soros and other hedge fund managers trying to ruin the UK economy from behind the scenes, with the Bank of England doing everything they could to prop up the economy, increasingly betting on the pound. But then eventually the bubble popped, and in one final push, Soros bet billions of dollars against the pound. And by this point, the UK just couldn't take it anymore, causing the pound to fall by 9.5%,
Wow.
despite all the attempts by the Bank of England to keep it afloat. And because of this, the economy would collapse, and the average person in the UK became significantly poorer for years to come, weakening the UK's position in the world dramatically, all to make Soros over $1 billion in profit. Yes, he had literally pushed the
billion in
country
profit.
over the edge,
Yep.
made millions of people struggling lives even worse, and made over $1 billion doing it.
Just for
Now, of
his
course, some of the fault
benefit.
obviously lies with the UK government and the Bank of England, but that's not really the root of the problem. The real issue here is that Soros was both partially causing and profiting off the downfall of millions, and all just for a small percentage increase to his massive fortunes. So what does Soros use this money for? Well, like all of these people, it's to push his own political ideals. In fact, Soros has put millions into politics for years, being
Okay.
the #1 donator to the Democrat 2020 campaign, just in front of Sam Bankman-Fried, pushing the woke
That's why you always hear like very people on the right, like far right, say it's Soros, da 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 da. Okay. Now I get what they're going on
corporate
about.
leftist
I never,
agenda. that all of
honestly,
his
I
friends
never really like, really looked into Soros and whatnot. So I always heard Soros like Soros this, Soros that. But now I see why, because he's actually like, funding Democrats like that, and so his image is already trash, obviously, because bro really just made bro really pooped millions and like made millions suffer just so for he can benefit by like a few dollars. Like that's crazy, bro.
the World Economic Forum and BlackRock promote. The UK wasn't the only country that was poorer because of Soros. In fact, he was the main short seller of the Thai baht in 1998 as well, causing it to crash and spiraling the whole Asian economy into crisis.
This dude
doubling
is
his
a
$1 billion
freaking, oh wow, bro, he has no
bet against
like
the Thai
heart.
government, all at the expense
doesn't
of the
care.
people's standard of living. So then this begs the question, what is Soros actually using this money for? Why is he ruining the lives of entire populations for profit? And why did he need to add any more to his vast fortunes? Well, there's a simple reason for this. He wants to push his own political ideals. In fact, Soros has put millions into politics for years, being the #1
like what is he trying to do with like at the end? Like what is the end goal for him, bro? Come on.
donated to the Democratic 2020 campaign. And
Okay.
this wasn't something new. For decades,
This is like
Soros
the
has
whole
built
New World
himself into
Order?
being a political titan,
NWO.
all off of the back of his predatory economics. For example, he was the main supporter of the Obama and Hillary campaigns, throwing hundreds of millions at super PACs and campaign funds. But over time, this has just ramped up even more, with Soros even throwing $128 million at the most recent American midterms. But the majority of Soros' political control stems from his, quote, charitable projects, like for example his Open Society Foundation. Now through this organization, Soros has funneled billions into the non-profit, where he can then legitimately push his agenda across the globe, all while hiding behind the front of charity. And by hiding behind charity, Soros can then legitimize and perpetuate his position of power, while also helping his public image as the billionaire defender of the people. And this organization is no joke. It works very closely with both the EU and the World Economic Forum, working with these giant intergovernmental organizations to develop a new world, a world of billionaires and their subjects, who should be grateful for the scraps thrown their way. And Soros' sons are then set to inherit his influence and connections, as one of his sons, Jonathan, manages his own private investment fund, a great way to continue Soros' legacy, and another of his sons, Alexander, manages the charitable side of the business. And so if they keep their fortune relatively intact, the Soroses are looking at centuries of power at the top. But how do families even stay at the top for generations? We need to understand another way that they maintain their power, through building very secret connections. And this is all just part of the process and how the billionaire elite maintain their power in society.
Secret
But then this begs
societies.
the question, how do these families even get good connections with governments, politicians, world leaders, and celebrities? Well, billionaires do this by creating their own secretive club of elites. And really the only way to join these secretive societies is to be born into these secretive families. Now the pipeline begins in elite schools, but the most pivotal stage starts at college or university. And this is where the real connections are made, through shadowy secret societies.
Skull and
Like the
Bones,
infamous Skull
Bohemian
and Bones Club
Grove.
at Yale, where
Yep,
15 people from each class at Yale are selected for initiation, which involves secret rituals and divulging your deepest secrets to the other members. The rumored agreement involves signing away a portion of your earnings in return for connections and power.
Isn't
And
this,
this ensures these raw
There's a movie I've been always wanting to see. That it was a movie called, was it Eyes Wide Shut? Eyes Wide Shut, right? Like it's about secret societies and how when the celebrity dies of an overdose, it never turns out it's actually like some like sacrifice or some
Ruling
weird
elites
stuff
are
like
kept
that.
in line. All of their friends and connections in upper society know their secrets now, and they know everyone else's. Some members of Skull and Bones, otherwise known as the Brotherhood of Death, include both Bushes,
George
former
Bushes.
President Taft, and a whole slew of Americans elites like John Kerry. I mean, just look at this interview with both
Is Obama, was it? No. I thought Obama was part of it. but I'm
George
not too
Bush and
sure.
John Kerry, where they were both asked about their participation in the society.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
Wow. Okay.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
Hey, man.
First of all, he's not the nominee, and look, I look for.
Both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret. Is there a secret?
Immediately after
I
being
guess.
asked this question, they would both move on almost instantly,
Yeah.
after an uncomfortable non-answer, which poses some really eerie questions that during the 2004 presidential election, the public was forced to vote between one Skull and Bones member and another Skull and Bones member. It makes you question who's really pulling the strings here. It's all done by these nepotistic family secret societies.
Yep. Yes. Eyes Wide
Now,
Shut.
some of these secret societies can go much further, actively organizing twisted sexual rituals to create ties between the ruling classes, like, for example, the Bohemian Grove.
Oh,
Now, this
yes,
sounds
the
like a
Bohemian
conspiracy
Grove.
here, but hear me out.
Alex
Bohemian
Jones,
Grove
baby.
is a secluded and
kidding.
highly secure
He
section
still
of
sucks,
the
though.
Californian redwood forest, where all the most powerful people in the world gather to hold secret meetings and depraved initiations. One of these is the Cremation of Grace, where the members of Grove wear robes and light a torch under a 12-meter tall owl, an owl god called Moloch. Other recorded footage from the secret society shows mock human sacrifices and ancient Babylonian customs. The symbolism here is supposed to represent burning away your cares and conscience for the outside world, enabling members to fully embrace the cult-like Grove. And then this opening ceremony begins months of copious drinking and secretive networking between elites.
So he went and snuck in.
What is that? Just reminded me of I don't know, that South Park episode. Was it Witches and Crap? No. It's like when Randy and all the other guys go up into this place and do crack and like drink. Was it James Daniels or something like that? that's the best.
To this
That was a great
place where
episode.
like former
Love 'em.
presidents go. There's a photograph of it's Ronald Reagan with Herbert Walker Bush and a couple other people all standing around, and it's like these are the people that used to hang out at this place, and they would put on robes and they would worship an owl god, and they would burn an effigy, and they're playing. And Alex snuck in and made video footage of this shit, and then no one's denying that it's real. This really did happen.
Why not?
Everyone who's anyone is a member. From the Bushes, Nixon, Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher, Bill Gates,
right.
all the way to Clint Eastwood. And so it's clear that the
Clint
Bohemian Grove,
Eastwood?
like all these other secretive societies, run on a system of institutionalized nepotism. Members of already elite families and dynasties are then inducted into a great exclusionary family, where they can then connect with each other to maintain their positions in society and extend their grips on power. And by using these gross rituals and shared debauchery, this then ties the people together, creating a shared secret that nobody would ever dare break.
Yeah, but where do
Their
celebrities
decadence
come in?
pales in comparison to the next family on this list, the Saudi royal family. Our fourth family
Oh,
is the most
yes.
powerful of them all because of their massive wealth and domination.
Yeah, this was insane. This was insane. But dude, there's just so much power there, man. Like, I can never like really think of like, yeah, we can do a revolution and all that, but it's like it's just so hard for me to think of like or to imagine a revolution these days, just because how powerful some of these groups are, and you know, we're I don't know. They divided us to a point where we can't even fight the ultra rich. We're just so divided these days. So yeah, I can never imagine something like that. But anyway, great video.